Picture this moment with me. It's 3 a.m. and you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Your mind is racing with thoughts you can't turn off. Maybe it's about that job interview tomorrow that could change everything. Maybe it's about the relationship that's falling apart despite all your efforts. Maybe it's about the dreams you had when you were younger that now feel impossibly far away. You know that feeling, don't you? That weight in your chest that makes breathing feel like work. That voice in your head whispering that maybe you're not enough. Maybe you'll never be enough. I've been there. We've all been there. In those quiet moments when the world is asleep and you're left alone with your thoughts, wondering if happiness is something that happens to other people, but never quite reaches you. Here's what I want you to understand right now. And I need you to really hear me on this. That storm you're experiencing, that chaos swirling in your mind and heart, it's not your enemy. It's not there to destroy you. It's there to reveal something extraordinary about who you really are. See, we've been sold this lie about happiness. We've been told it's a destination, a place we arrive at once we get the right job, the right relationship, the right amount of money in our bank account. We treat happiness like it's a reward we earn after we've checked all the boxes life has given us. But what if I told you that everything you've been taught about happiness is backwards? What if happiness isn't something you find at the end of your journey, but something you choose at every single step along the way? I remember talking to my grandmother when I was going through one of the darkest periods of my life. I had just lost a job I thought would define my career. I was questioning everything about myself, my abilities, my worth. I sat in her kitchen, the same kitchen where she made me countless meals growing up, and I asked her through tears, when does it get easier? When do I finally feel happy? She looked at me with those wise eyes that had seen decades of storms, and she said something that changed my entire perspective on life. She said, "My dear, you're asking the wrong question. You're asking when happiness will come to you, but happiness doesn't come to you. You go to happiness every single day. You choose it." At first, I thought she was being simplistic. How could someone just choose happiness when life was falling apart? How could someone decide to be happy when everything felt wrong? But then she told me about her own journey. She told me about losing her first child, about the poverty she faced as a young mother, about the discrimination she experienced, about the night she cried herself to sleep, wondering how she would feed her family. And then she told me about the morning she woke up and decided that her circumstances didn't get to define her joy. I realized, she said, that I was giving my power away. I was letting external things control my internal world. And that's when I understood that happiness isn't about what happens to you. It's about what you choose to do with what happens to you. That conversation planted a seed in my mind that would take years to fully grow, but it was the beginning of understanding something profound. Happiness is not a passive experience. It's an active choice. It's not something that happens to you when life gets perfect. It's something you create even when life is imperfect. Think about Thomas Edison for a moment. Here was a man who failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Can you imagine that 1,000 failures, 1,000 moments where he could have given up, where he could have decided that happiness wasn't meant for him, that success was for other people? But Edison understood something we often forget. He didn't see those failures as evidence that he wasn't meant to succeed. He saw them as necessary steps on his journey to success. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's the mindset shift we need to make. Edison chose to see his setbacks as setups for his comeback. He chose to find meaning in his struggles. He chose happiness not as a destination he would reach when he invented the light bulb, but as a companion he carried with him through every experiment, every failure. Every small victory along the way, your mind is the most powerful tool you possess. But it can also be your greatest enemy if you don't learn to direct it. Right now, as you're listening to these words, your mind is creating your reality. The thoughts you're thinking, the beliefs you're holding, the story you're telling yourself about your life, all of this is shaping your experience of this very moment. Here's something most people never realize. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thought. You are the director of your mind, not its prisoner. I want you to imagine your mind like a garden. Every thought you think is like a seed. If you plant seeds of doubt, you'll grow doubt. If you plant seeds of fear, you'll grow fear. If you plant seeds of limitation, you'll grow limitation. But if you plant seeds of possibility, of growth, of love, of gratitude, that's what will flourish in your life. The problem is, most of us have been unconscious gardeners. We've been letting any kind of seed blow into our minds without questioning whether we want that plant to grow. We've been fertilizing weeds and wondering why our garden doesn't look beautiful, but today, right now, you can choose to become a conscious gardener of your mind. You can choose which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones deserve to be pulled up like weeds before they take root. Dale Carnegie understood this principle deeply. He wrote, "The successful man will profit from his mistakes and try again in a different way." But more than that, Carnegie recognized that our attitude toward our mistakes determines whether they become stepping stones or stumbling blocks. When Carnegie was struggling as a young man, broke and uncertain about his future, he could have chosen to see his circumstances as evidence that he wasn't meant for success. Instead, he chose to see them as temporary conditions that would teach him valuable lessons. He chose to cultivate a mindset of growth rather than a mindset of defeat. This is where most people get stuck. They think happiness is something that should come naturally, something that shouldn't require effort. But think about anything else you value in your life. Your health requires effort. Your relationship requires effort. Your career requires effort. Why would your happiness be any different? The difference between people who live joyful lives and people who struggle with happiness isn't that joyful people have easier lives. It's that they've learned to train their minds to focus on what serves them rather than what hurts them. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can focus on what's wrong with your life, or you can focus on what's possible. You can replay your failures, or you can rehearse your success. You can dwell on your limitations, or you can explore your potential. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending that challenges don't exist. This is about recognizing that while you can't always control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond to what happens to you. Abraham Lincoln faced more rejection and failure than most people could imagine. He lost 8 elections, failed twice in business, and suffered a nervous breakdown. By most standards, he should have given up. He should have accepted that success wasn't meant for him. But Lincoln understood something profound about purpose and vision. He understood that his failures weren't defining his worth. They were preparing him for his destiny. Each setback was teaching him resilience, empathy, and determination that he would need to lead a divided nation through its darkest hour. Here's what I want you to understand about your own purpose. It's not something you find like a treasure buried in the ground. It's something you create through your choices, your actions, your commitment to growth and service. Your purpose isn't hiding from you. It's emerging through you every time you choose love over fear. Every time you choose growth over comfort. Every time you choose to see possibilities where others see problems. Maybe you're thinking, but I don't know what my purpose is. I don't have a grand vision for my life. And that's okay. Purpose doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to change the world in obvious ways. Sometimes purpose is as simple as being kind to the person who serves your coffee. Sometimes it's listening to a friend who needs to be heard. Sometimes it's choosing to smile when you feel like frowning. because you know your energy affects everyone around you. Walt Disney understood this beautifully. When he was creating Disneyland, people told him he was crazy. They said adults wouldn't want to visit a theme park, that it was too expensive, too ambitious, too unrealistic. Disney had already faced bankruptcy, had already been told by a newspaper editor that he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. But Disney had a vision that went beyond the criticism and the obstacles. He envisioned a place where families could create magical memories together. He saw past the immediate challenges to the long-term impact he could have on people's lives. He chose to let his vision pull him forward rather than let his circumstances hold him back. Your vision for your life doesn't have to be as big as Disneyland, but it needs to be clear enough to guide your decisions and strong enough to pull you through difficult times. When you have a compelling vision for your future, present challenges become temporary inconveniences rather than permanent roadblocks. But here's where it gets tricky. Having a vision isn't enough. You also need to learn the art of letting go. Think about a river for a moment. Water doesn't fight against the rocks in its path. It doesn't waste energy trying to move mountains. It finds the most efficient way forward, sometimes going around obstacles, sometimes wearing them down, gradually, sometimes finding an entirely different path. But we humans, we like to grab onto things. We grab onto our past mistakes and carry them like heavy backpacks. We grab onto other people's opinions and let them define our self-worth. We grab onto outcomes we can't control and stress ourselves into exhaustion, trying to force life to look exactly the way we think it should. Mahatma Gandhi mastered this principle of letting go when he was fighting for India's independence. He faced seemingly impossible odds. The British Empire was one of the most powerful forces in the world. Gandhi was just one man with a vision of freedom. But Gandhi understood that he couldn't control the British government's actions. He couldn't control the timeline of independence. He couldn't control how others would respond to his message. What he could control was his own actions, his own commitment to nonviolence, his own dedication to his principles. By letting go of what he couldn't control and focusing entirely on what he could control, Gandhi was able to change the course of history. He found peace in the midst of struggle because he wasn't wasting energy fighting battles he couldn't win. What are you holding on to that's draining your energy? What are you trying to control that's actually beyond your influence? Maybe it's someone else's opinion of you. Maybe it's a mistake you made years ago. Maybe it's fear about a future that hasn't happened yet. Here's a powerful question I want you to ask yourself. Is this thought serving my happiness, or is it stealing from it? If a thought isn't serving your joy, your growth, your peace, then it doesn't deserve space in your mind. This is where gratitude becomes your greatest ally. Gratitude isn't just about saying thank you when good things happen. Gratitude is about training your mind to notice the good that's already present in your life, even when things aren't perfect. When you practice gratitude, you're not ignoring problems or pretending everything is wonderful. You're choosing to give your attention to what's working rather than what's broken. You're choosing to water the flowers in your life rather than just watering the weeds. I learned this lesson in a profound way during a particularly difficult period. I was struggling financially, feeling uncertain about my career, and questioning whether I was on the right path. Every day felt like a battle, and I was exhausted from fighting. Then one morning, I decided to try something different. Instead of starting my day by thinking about everything that was wrong, I started by thinking about 3 things I was grateful for. They weren't big things. I was grateful for my morning coffee. I was grateful for the fact that I had a roof over my head. I was grateful for a friend who had texted me the night before just to check in. It sounds almost silly, but something shifted in me that morning. By focusing on what I had rather than what I lacked, I felt a sense of abundance rather than scarcity. By appreciating the small gifts in my life, I created space for larger blessings to enter. That's the power of gratitude. It doesn't change your circumstances immediately, but it changes your relationship with your circumstances. It helps you see opportunities where you once saw only obstacles. It helps you feel rich even when your bank account is small. It helps you feel loved even when you're lonely. Henry Ford revolutionized the world not because he never faced challenges, but because he chose to see challenges as opportunities to innovate. When people told him that a horseless carriage would never replace horses, he didn't argue with them. He got to work building something that would prove them wrong through action, not words. Ford understood that sustainable change happens through consistent small actions, not dramatic gestures. Every day, he made choices that aligned with his vision of the future. He built habits that supported his goals. He surrounded himself with people who shared his commitment to innovation. This is the secret that most people miss about transformation. It's not about making massive changes overnight. It's about making small, consistent choices that compound over time. If you want to build happiness as a habit, you need to start small. Maybe it's choosing to write down 3 things you're grateful for every morning. Maybe it's choosing to take a 5-minute walk when you feel stressed instead of scrolling through social media. Maybe it's choosing to speak to yourself with the same kindness you would show a good friend. These small choices might seem insignificant, but they're not. They're like seeds that will grow into the forest of your future. Each positive choice makes the next positive choice easier. Each moment of choosing happiness over despair strengthens your happiness muscle. But here's something crucial I need you to understand. Building positive habits isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. You're going to have days when you don't feel grateful. You're going to have moments when you choose fear over love, when you choose criticism over compassion, when you choose to focus on problems rather than possibilities. That's not failure. That's humanity. The goal isn't to never have negative thoughts or difficult emotions. The goal is to notice when you're having them and gently redirect your attention back to what serves you. Think of it like training a puppy. When a puppy has an accident in the house, you don't scream at it or give up on house training. You clean up the mess and patiently redirect the puppy to where it should go. You treat yourself with the same patience and kindness as you're learning new mental and emotional habits. This brings us to perhaps the most important aspect of choosing happiness. As a journey, self-love. I know that phrase might make you uncomfortable. In our culture, self-love is often misunderstood as narcissism or selfishness. But real self-love is the foundation of all healthy relationships and all genuine happiness. Self-love isn't about thinking you're perfect. It's about accepting yourself as perfectly imperfect. It's about recognizing that your worthiness isn't dependent on your achievements, your appearance, or other people's approval. You are worthy of love and happiness simply because you exist. I want to share something personal with you. For years, I was my own worst critic. I had a voice in my head that was harsher than any external criticism I'd ever received. Every mistake was evidence that I wasn't good enough. Every setback was proof that I didn't deserve success. Every rejection felt like confirmation that I was fundamentally flawed. This internal criticism wasn't motivating me to be better. It was paralyzing me with fear. It was making me so afraid of failure that I wasn't willing to try. It was stealing my joy and replacing it with anxiety. The turning point came when I realized I was treating myself in a way I would never treat another human being. If a friend came to me with a mistake they'd made, I would offer understanding and encouragement. But when I made the same mistake, I offered myself judgment and shame. That's when I started practicing something I call befriending yourself. Instead of being my own worst enemy, I decided to become my own best friend. I started speaking to myself with the same kindness I would show someone I cared about. I started celebrating my small victories instead of only focusing on my failures. I started treating my dreams with respect instead of dismissing them as unrealistic. This shift didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process of unlearning years of self-criticism and replacing it with self-compassion. But as I became gentler with myself, something beautiful happened. I became more confident, more creative, more willing to take risks. I stopped waiting for permission from others to pursue my dreams because I had given myself permission. Here's what I want you to understand. The relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship in your life. It's the foundation for every other relationship you'll ever have. If you can't love yourself, you'll spend your life seeking love from others to fill a void that can only be filled from within. Self-love isn't selfish. When you love yourself, you have more love to give others. When you're kind to yourself, you're naturally kinder to everyone around you. When you believe in your own worth, you see the worth in others more clearly. But self-love also means setting boundaries. It means saying no to things that drain your energy and yes to things that nourish your soul. It means choosing to spend time with people who lift you up rather than tear you down. It means investing in your growth, your health, your dreams, even when others don't understand. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." This is the challenge of self-love in a world that profits from your insecurities, that wants you to believe you're not enough. So you'll keep buying, keep seeking, keep searching for happiness in external things. But you are enough. Right now, exactly as you are. You are enough. You don't need to earn your worthiness through achievements. You don't need to prove your value through perfection. You don't need to wait until you've fixed everything about yourself to start living a life you love. This is where the journey of happiness becomes not just personal, but transformational. When you choose happiness not as a destination, but as a traveling companion, you begin to see that every experience, the good ones and the challenging ones, are all part of your growth. The storms in your life aren't trying to destroy you. They're trying to reveal the strength you didn't know you had. They're trying to teach you resilience you wouldn't develop any other way. They're trying to show you that you're capable of weathering any challenge life brings your way. I think about the oak tree in my backyard. During storms, it bends dramatically in the wind. Sometimes I think it's going to break, but it never does. It bends, it sways, it weathers the storm. And when the sun comes out again, it stands even taller, even stronger. Its roots grown deeper into the earth. That's what storms do for us as human beings. They don't break us unless we let them. They bend us. They test us. They teach us flexibility and resilience. And when the storm passes, and it always passes, we discover that we're stronger than we thought, more resilient than we imagined, more capable than we believed. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has weathered storms. Every person who radiates genuine happiness has learned to dance in the rain rather than wait for perfect weather. Every person who inspires others has learned to find light in dark places and share that light with the world. You have that same capacity within you. You have the ability to transform your pain into purpose, your struggles into strength, your challenges into character. You have the power to choose happiness, not because life is perfect, but because you are perfectly capable of creating beauty in an imperfect world. This is your moment. Right now, as you're hearing these words, you're at a crossroads. You can choose to continue treating happiness as something that will happen to you someday when your life gets perfect. Or you can choose to start creating happiness right now, right where you are. With exactly what you have, you can choose to see today's challenges as evidence that happiness isn't meant for you. Or you can choose to see them as opportunities to practice resilience, to develop character, to become the person you're meant to be. You can choose to wait for someone else to give you permission to pursue your dreams, or you can choose to give yourself permission to start today, even if you don't have all the answers. Even if the path isn't perfectly clear, here's what I know about people who live truly happy lives. They don't wait for happiness to find them. They go out and create it. They don't wait for perfect circumstances. They find ways to bloom where they're planted. They don't wait for other people to make them feel worthy. They recognize their own inherent worth and live from that place of knowing they understand that happiness is not a prize you win at the end of life's game. It's the attitude you bring to playing the game. It's not a destination you reach after you've solved all your problems. It's the lens through which you choose to view your problems. When you choose happiness as a journey rather than a destination, you stop postponing your joy. You stop saying, I'll be happy when I get the promotion, when I find the right relationship, when I lose the weight, when I make more money. You start saying, I can choose to find joy in this moment. Right now, even as I work toward my goals. This doesn't mean you stop growing or striving. It means you enjoy the process of growth. It means you find fulfillment in the journey, not just the destination. It means you celebrate progress, not just perfection. I want to leave you with a challenge, a call to action that can change your life starting today. For the next 7 days, I want you to practice what I call the Happiness Choice Challenge. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you start thinking about your to-do list, before you begin planning your day, I want you to make a conscious choice. I want you to say to yourself, today, I choose happiness, not because my life is perfect, but because I am perfectly capable of finding joy in this imperfect life. Throughout your day, when you face challenges, and you will face challenges, I want you to ask yourself, how can I choose happiness in this moment? What would love do? What would growth look like? What would courage choose? When you catch your mind dwelling on what's wrong, gently redirect it to what's possible. When you notice yourself comparing your inside to other people's outsides, remind yourself that everyone is fighting battles you know nothing about. And your job is to fight yours with grace and determination. When you feel overwhelmed by the distance between where you are and where you want to be, remind yourself that every expert was once a beginner. Every oak tree was once an acorn. Every masterpiece started with a single brushstroke. At the end of each day, before you go to sleep, I want you to write down 3 things you're grateful for, and one way you chose happiness that day. It might be something as simple as choosing to smile at a stranger or choosing to speak kindly to yourself when you made a mistake. This challenge isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about training your mind to notice the good that's already present in your life. It's about building your happiness muscle through consistent practice. It's about proving to yourself that you have more control over your emotional experience than you might have realized. 7 days. That's all I'm asking. 7 days of choosing happiness as a practice, rather than waiting for it as a prize. 7 days of treating yourself with kindness rather than criticism. 7 days of focusing on what you can control rather than what you can't. I believe that 7 days of conscious happiness practice will show you something profound, that happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. It's not something you find. It's something you build. It's not something you deserve when life gets perfect. It's something you can choose even when life is perfectly imperfect. And when those 7 days are over, you'll have a choice. You can go back to treating happiness as a destination that you'll reach someday when everything falls into place. Or you can continue treating it as a journey, as a daily practice, as a way of being in the world that transforms not just your own life, but the lives of everyone you touch. Because here's the beautiful truth about choosing happiness as a journey, it's contagious. When you radiate genuine joy, when you approach challenges with resilience, when you treat yourself and others with kindness, you give everyone around you permission to do the same. You become a light in a world that often feels dark. You become hope in a culture that often feels hopeless. You become proof that it's possible to thrive not just survive, regardless of your circumstances. The storms in your life, the ones you've weathered and the ones still coming, they're not your enemies. They're your teachers. They're not trying to destroy you. They're trying to reveal the unshakable strength that lives within you. They're not evidence that you're broken. They're proof that you're human, and that being human means being resilient, adaptable, and capable of growing through whatever life brings your way. Your happiness is not dependent on having a perfect life. It's dependent on choosing to find beauty, meaning, and joy in the imperfect life you have. It's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So dance. Choose happiness. Choose it today. Choose it tomorrow. Choose it when it's easy and when it's hard. Choose it when you feel like it and when you don't. Choose it not because you have to, but because you can. Choose it not because your life is perfect, but because you are perfectly capable of creating an extraordinary life with ordinary moments. This is your invitation. This is your moment. This is your choice. Choose happiness, not as a destination, but as a way of traveling through life. The journey is waiting for you and is more beautiful than you can imagine. If this message resonated with you, if you felt something shift in your heart or your mind, I want you to know that you're not alone on this journey. There are millions of people around the world who are choosing happiness as a practice, who are committed to growth, who believe in the power of love over fear. Consider subscribing to this channel because every week we explore these ideas deeper. We share stories of real people who have transformed their lives by changing their mindset. We provide practical tools and strategies for building resilience, cultivating gratitude, and creating a life you love. But more than that, when you subscribe, you become part of a community of people who are committed to lifting each other up, who understand that personal growth is not a luxury but a necessity, who believe that every single person has the potential to create extraordinary change in their own life and in the world. Your happiness matters. Your growth matters. Your dreams matter. Your journey matters. And it starts with a single choice. The choice to see happiness not as something you'll find someday, but as something you can create today. The journey is calling. Will you answer?